Act as if everything always works out for you. Have you ever felt as if life never stops testing you? You make plans, you give your best effort, yet things collapse beyond your control. A relationship you trusted vanishes in silence. A job you poured your heart into ends abruptly. And sometimes, just a single cold glance can convince you that the whole world is against you. We Americans often say, "That's life." But the truth is, many don't just say it, they believe that fate is nothing but a chain of failures, and that belief quietly becomes the way they live. I used to be like that. Every failure made me retreat further. Every rejection made me stop trying again. And slowly, I became the victim of the stories I told myself, that I wasn't good enough, that life wasn't meant for me. But then I came across a simple yet powerful idea, an idea found both in Stoic philosophy and modern psychology. Act as if everything will work out. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king of Rome, once wrote, "Your life is shaped by the thoughts you repeat in your mind." That means if we carry the story of failure within us, then failure becomes our habit. But if we choose to believe that everything eventually serves our growth, then naturally, the way we walk, the way we speak, and the way we wait will transform. Belief is not just a thought. Belief is a posture, how we stand in the world. In America, where everything runs fast, from deadlines and bills to fierce competition, keeping the faith can sound vague. But think about it. The successful people you admire most, an athlete, an artist, an entrepreneur, they didn't begin with a map in their hands. What they had, first of all, was the trust that every step, even through the fog, would eventually lead to the right path. Imagine two people who both lose their jobs. The first panic, believing life is over, that no opportunity will ever return. The second also feels the pain, but whispers to themselves, "What if this is the start of something better?" And then that second person moves forward, attending interviews, learning new skills, reaching out to strangers. The result? Not magic, but attitude, opening the door to new beginnings. This is the very difference the Stoics called the power of choosing how we interpret events instead of surrendering to circumstance. Modern psychology confirms the same. The human brain has a mechanism called confirmation bias. This means that we are always searching for evidence that supports our beliefs. If you believe everything will work out, your brain filters for the positive, noticing opportunities in setbacks. If you think I always fail, your brain will only collect reasons to collapse again. This is not magic, it is biology, wired into every one of us. Americans love the story of from nothing to something, but the common thread of every such story is not luck. They acted as if success was only a matter of time. Henry Ford once said, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right." Ford didn't wait for others to believe in him. He acted first, and only later did the world's belief follow. Which posture will you choose? What is the posture of the one who waits for proof before taking a step? Or the posture of the one who knows that action itself is proof? The fascinating thing is, when you begin to act as if everything will be okay, you will realize you are no longer acting one day. It has become the way you truly live. This video is not meant to paint a rosy world. Life will still bring pain, injustice, and sudden blows. But Stoic philosophy reminds us that in our darkest moments, how we look at the problem is our real strength. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." If you imagine everything has meaning, pain becomes a lesson, and chaos becomes the foundation of a new you, stronger, steadier, unshaken. So, from this moment, ask yourself, What would change if I believed everything is arranging itself for my benefit? You could walk differently, speak differently, decide differently, and each slight difference would weave itself into a new way of life, the life of someone not ruled by circumstances but guided by belief. If you want to go deeper with me and turn this belief into a daily way of living, stay until the end of this video. And if this is your first time at Sovereign Stoic, make sure to subscribe so we can build together a community of people who know how to stand firm, trust, and keep moving forward, even when the road is not yet clear. Lesson 1. Belief comes before evidence. Have you noticed that in daily life here in America, we often hear the phrase, "I'll believe it when I see the evidence"? It sounds reasonable because we grew up in a society that glorifies science, data, degrees, and concrete results. But ironically, that way of thinking traps many people in a cycle of hesitation and doubt. They wait for evidence before they dare to step forward. They wait to see the path before they begin. And so, they remain standing still forever. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "It is your beliefs that shape the reality you live in." He never said belief requires evidence before it can exist. In truth, evidence often appears only after you have acted with belief. Look back at history. The first immigrants who set foot in America had nothing in their hands except the belief that their lives could be different in this new land. They had not yet seen evidence. They had no guarantees, yet they still boarded the ships. And because of that, evidence was created afterward. A new life, a better future for their children. In modern life, this story repeats itself. A young person in New York who loses their job could despair, thinking, surely things will only get worse. That belief will drag them into a spiral of finding proof of failure, the cold look from an interviewer, the rejection email, the silence from companies they applied to. But if in the same situation they choose to believe, "This is the turning point that forces me to find a better direction," their actions will shift. They will walk into interviews calmly, ask more profound questions, and create a genuine connection. And that belief, not outside evidence, changes the outcome. Marcus Aurelius, in Meditations, wrote, "Our lives are shaped by the thoughts we repeat." Modern Americans might phrase it this way: what you think every morning determines the direction your life will drift. If every morning you wake with the belief that everything will fall apart, your whole day will play out according to that script. But if you choose to believe things are slowly falling into place, I just need to keep moving, your brain will find ways to make that belief come true. Modern psychology calls this confirmation bias. The brain is not as objective as we imagine. It seeks evidence to prove what you already believe. If you think no one really cares about me, you'll notice only the moments you were ignored. But if you feel I am gradually being recognized, you will catch the small smile from a colleague, the simple compliment from your boss, or the unexpected opportunity from an old friend. So what's the solution? Don't wait for evidence. Act as if the belief were already true. As Seneca emphasized, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Your preparation is your firm belief. That belief leads you to action, and that action, over time, creates the evidence. Practicing this in American life is not hard, but requires discipline. Start by asking yourself, if I believed everything would be okay, how would I act today? It may mean sending one more job application. It may mean stepping into the gym instead of staying home, blaming yourself. It may mean spending an evening writing down that business idea you've delayed. Small actions, born of belief, will accumulate into evidence, and one day you will look back and realize, It's true things are getting better. You might argue, but what if things don't work out? What if I fail? The Stoic answer is clear. Failure is not proof that you were wrong. Failure is part of the path that produces the proof. Thomas Edison failed more than 10,000 times before the light bulb. He did not wait for evidence of success to keep going. He believed success was sure and acted as if it were. The important thing is this: when you choose belief before evidence, you don't just change the result, you change yourself. You become the kind of person who can stand firm in uncertainty, who doesn't need to see the entire road before stepping forward. Americans often call this quiet confidence. It isn't loud, it doesn't boast, but others sense it the moment you walk into a room. And once you've touched that spirit, you will naturally move on to the following lessons. Because if belief comes before evidence, the story you tell yourself is the compass guiding your path. That is lesson 2. Rewrite the story you're telling yourself, where we will explore the power of inner dialogue and how to turn it into a tool to rebuild your life. Lesson 2. Rewrite the story you're telling yourself. There is something few people realize. Every day, we whisper stories about ourselves inside our heads. When you wake up, you might say to yourself, "Another exhausting day," or "Something good will happen today." That story, though brief, becomes the foundation of how you step into the world. A person who believes they are unlucky will easily see nothing but failure. A person who thinks things can turn around will find a way out even in a dead end. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Our lives are shaped by the thoughts we repeat in our minds." This is not only philosophy, it is modern psychology. The human brain tends to filter information to fit pre-existing beliefs, confirmation bias. If you believe you are inadequate, your brain will only search for proof that reinforces it. But if you choose to rewrite the story, assuming you are capable, that challenges are stepping stones, your brain will scan the world to find evidence confirming this new belief. Think about a concrete situation in American life. Suppose you just lost your job. 2 stories could echo in your mind. 1. I failed. I'm not good enough. No company will ever hire me again. 2. This is the chance to find a path that fits me better, to prove myself stronger than ever. The same event, but your chosen story determines your actions. Surrender or rise. I once had a friend laid off during corporate downsizing in New York. At first, he sank into shame, telling himself, "I'm a loser." But then he tried changing the story. Instead of seeing it as an ending, he rewrote it. "This is the opening chapter of taking ownership of my career." Within 6 months, he landed a new job not only with higher pay, but in the very field he was passionate about. He wasn't suddenly lucky. The new story directed new actions, proactive networking, learning new skills, and walking into interviews with a different kind of confidence. The Stoics always stressed this. Events themselves mean nothing. What matters is how we interpret them. Epictetus said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by their opinion of things." This means you have full authority to edit the book of your life, to change the narration inside your head. And every time you rewrite it, you open new possibilities. This lesson is not just about optimism. It requires daily practice. Instead of reaching for your phone to scroll through negative headlines each morning, write one line in a journal. "I am building a stronger version of myself out of these hardships." When you face failure, ask yourself, if this were a chapter in a larger story, what is it teaching me? With just one new question, you redirect your entire path. And more importantly, when you rewrite your story, you don't just change yourself, you become evidence for others. In your family, workplace, and even in small conversations, people watch how you face adversity to learn how to tell their own story differently. You accidentally become the penholder, not just for yourself, but for those searching for a new manuscript for their lives. As you finish this lesson, pause and ask, what story are you telling about yourself today? Is it the story of someone stuck, or of someone being forged? If the answer doesn't make you stronger, then it is time to pick up the pen and rewrite it. And this is only the next step. Because belief doesn't stop with the story in your head, it spreads into how you act each day. Up next, we will continue the journey exploring why small, repeated actions are the most substantial evidence to reinforce the story you choose to write for your life. Lesson 3. Small actions, big belief. One of the most common illusions many Americans and many of us fall into is thinking that we must have great belief, strong confidence, before we begin to act. But the truth is the opposite. It is action itself that plants the seed of faith. Aristotle once wrote, "We become just by doing just acts. We become brave by doing brave acts." In other words, you don't need to wait until you feel brave enough to take a step. You take the step first, and courage is born from that very step. Picture someone who wants to change jobs. They think, when I feel more confident, I'll apply. But waiting for confidence is like waiting for the sun to rise at midnight. It will not come. Another person, though still full of doubt, applies anyway. And from that moment, everything shifts. They receive a reply, they get an interview, they gain experience. Small pieces of evidence are gathered, and gradually, confidence grows strong. I once met a woman in California, 40 years old, who wanted to open her own coffee shop. For years, she told herself, "I don't have enough experience. I don't have enough money. It's not the right time." But she discovered the truth when she began with one small action, selling takeaway coffee from her front porch on weekends. Neighbors stopped by, word spread, and regulars appeared. Each small step built belief, and belief built the coffee shop she owns today. Epictetus emphasized, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." The Stoics believed belief does not lie in words but in concrete action. Every time you choose to rise instead of surrender, you accumulate living proof that you are strong enough. The problem is that many people sit and wait to feel ready. They wait until fear disappears, until doubt is gone, before taking a step. But readiness never arrives. It is not the beginning, it is the result. When you make a phone call, send an email, train for 10 more minutes, write one page in your journal, those are the first bricks that build belief. Modern psychologists call this the self-efficacy effect. When we take even a small action, we signal to the brain, "I can do this." The brain records it, stores it, and the next time you face a challenge, it pulls out that memory and reminds you, "You did it before, you can do it again." And the truth is, small actions ripple outward. A father who chooses to sit at the dinner table with his children instead of staring at his phone. A mother who decides to take a 10-minute walk instead of complaining about her fatigue. These seemingly trivial actions become vivid lessons about discipline and belief for their children. Your belief becomes the belief of others. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Remember, most of your fear does not live in the action itself, it lives in the moments before you act. Once you begin, fear starts to fade. If the previous lesson helped you rewrite the story in your head, then this lesson is the step that turns the tale into truth. Because a story, without being reinforced by action, is nothing more than a drifting page. But with action, It becomes a backbone, a living proof. And when you have accumulated enough proof, you no longer need to whisper, "I believe in myself." Belief will flow naturally in your blood. Next, we will go deeper. If small actions are the beginning, then training yourself to view life through a disciplined lens of positivity, not unquestioning optimism, but grounded discipline, is what allows you to stand firm for the long run. Lesson 4. Disciplined optimism. The strength of those who never collapse. When people hear optimism, many immediately think of naivety, of someone pretending to smile while their heart breaks. However, for the Stoics, optimism was never about painting reality in bright colors. It is a discipline training the mind to look directly at hardship and still find the path forward. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "What stands in the way becomes the way. What obstructs action advances action." This is the perfect definition of disciplined optimism. It is not denying obstacles, but viewing them as raw material for growth. In modern American life, where daily news is filled with worries from economic recession, unemployment, to personal crises, pessimism becomes the default response. Pessimism is easy because it demands nothing of you. All you need is to fold your arms and sigh. See, life has always been hard, but disciplined optimism is different. It forces you to ask, what can I learn from this? What strength can I build from this failure? I remember speaking with a former US Marine. He told me that during the brutal months in Afghanistan, he learned this lesson. No one can control the battlefield, but every man can control how he responds. While some were swallowed by fear, he chose the attitude, "I learn how to manage hour by hour, minute by minute." Later, when he returned home, he carried the same mindset into civilian life. Losing his job, he treated it as a chance to try a new field. A failed business he saw as tuition paid for stronger preparation next time. That was not blind hope that everything will be fine. It was the discipline of finding value in any circumstance. Modern psychologists call this resilient optimism. It prevents a person from collapsing in the face of harsh reality and instead turns reality into a stepping stone. Instead of letting tragedy define them, they allow it to refine them. Epictetus once emphasized, "It is not events themselves that disturb us, but the way we interpret them." That perspective is the most powerful tool you possess. One person may see rejection as the end. Another may see it as redirection. In America, countless immigrants arrived with nothing but empty hands. They might never have stepped beyond their cramped first apartment if they chose pessimism, but they decided on disciplined optimism, working night shifts, learning English, saving every dollar. They believed hardship was only a stage, and that belief repeated through action built an entirely new future for their families. Seneca once wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." This is the soul of disciplined optimism. Superficial optimists fear challenges. Disciplined optimists seek them because they understand that only through them can they be sharpened. This does not mean you must always smile. No one asks you to feel joy when you lose a loved one or to laugh at a bitter defeat. But even through tears, you can hold a quiet belief. This pain will teach me something. It will not be meaningless. That belief keeps you standing, preventing tragedy from crushing your spirit. If Lesson 3 showed you that small actions build belief, Lesson 4 teaches you how to keep that belief burning over time through disciplined optimism. Because if you act but lack discipline in your perspective, you will give up at the first failure. But once you learn to see life through Stoic eyes, that hardship is the gym fee for your soul, you will not collapse. And that is the key to moving forward. Lesson 5. Rewrite the script in your head. The story you tell yourself will decide everything. There is a truth most of us rarely notice. The story we tell ourselves is the frame that shapes our entire life. The same event, the same setback. Yet two people can walk down two completely different paths, simply because they carry two different stories. The first sighs and says, "Everything is against me." The second, facing the same fall, whispers, "This is a chance to learn." And from there, their lives unfold into two outcomes that could never be alike. Stoicism has long pointed this out. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer not from events, but from how we view them." The lens is the story you repeat to yourself. If that story is written in grey, your life gradually turns grey. If that story is written with the light of belief, your life will reflect that very light. I have seen this clearly in those around me. One friend lost his job, and his first reaction was, "I guess I'm not good enough. Fate wants me to fail." He withdrew, refused to apply again, refused to try again, and declined to reach out. And nothing changed. Another person, in the same situation, thought, "Maybe this is the push I need to step into a new chapter." He still felt pain, still felt confusion, but the story in his head had changed. Because of that, he went to more interviews, built more connections, and only months later, his path opened into something better than before. The world had not favored or punished one more than the other. It was the belief inside that decided how he acted after the loss. Neuroscience today confirms what Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus said thousands of years ago. Our brain has a mechanism called confirmation bias, constantly searching for evidence to reinforce our beliefs. When you believe you are unlucky, the brain scans the environment and records every mishap as proof. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and you immediately see it as more evidence of life's unfairness. But suppose you believe that everything will eventually unfold for the good. In that case, the brain filters for positive proof. A passing smile from a stranger, a small opportunity you notice only because you were willing to look. The outside world has not changed. Only the filter in your mind has, and that filter decides whether you live in hell or heaven. A study at Stanford University once tested this with students. They were asked to rewrite their failure story using a new frame of language. Instead of writing, "I failed," they wrote, "I am in the process of learning." The results showed that students who used the new story persisted twice as long in later challenges. This proves that rewriting your story is not some vague mental trick. It is a method of reprogramming the brain. It builds resilience, expands acceptance, and strengthens the will to move forward. In everyday American life, I've also seen this difference clearly in immigrant communities. Some families remain stuck in the loop of hardship because they keep telling themselves, "We'll never have enough, we'll never fit in." But others began with a different story. Every challenge is a classroom. Every day is a chance to rise. And from there, they adapted and excelled, building businesses, forming communities, and passing down a legacy of resilience to their children. The story in their heads determined the strength they carried into the world. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself, "The mind takes its color from the thoughts that dominate it." That means if you repeat "I am not enough" daily, you are dying in helplessness. But if you repeat "I am learning, I am progressing," then your mind will gradually take on the color of resilience. And that resilience will not stay locked inside it, will seep into your posture, tone of voice, and eyes. Others will sense it as a silent but undeniable signal. The important thing is, you don't need to rewrite a grand script all at once. Change a single line and let the brain search for new evidence. Try it. Instead of saying, "I always fail," say, "I am in training." Instead of whispering, "I was rejected," say, "I was redirected." Instead of sighing, "I've lost everything," say, "I've just been handed the chance to start anew." These small sentences open a new loop, new story to new actions, to new evidence, to new belief. And this loop, repeated long enough, builds an entirely different life. Remember, many of the stories in your head may not even be yours. They may be invisible inheritances from parents, from a teacher, or from old criticism. Maybe a teacher once told you, "You're not good at math," and you carried it as truth for life. But in reality, that was only someone else's story. You have the right to erase it. The past does not define you unless you keep repeating it. And rewriting the story is not about denying reality. Stoicism never taught us to reject truth, but to look at truth through a lens that makes us stronger. Seneca once said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." When we rewrite the story so that challenges are sharpening tools, suffering naturally becomes building material. No one remains a victim. We become students in the classroom of life. You can try this right now. Take a piece of paper and write down 3 old stories holding you back. They might be, "I'm not smart enough," "I'm always unlucky," "I never get opportunities." Then next to each, rewrite them from a new angle. "I am learning. I am being guided to the right place. I can create opportunities." As you read and reread these new stories, you will notice yourself standing differently, speaking differently, stepping forward differently, and from there, results will change. This lesson does not stop at rewriting. It opens the door to the next step, because once the new story is planted, you must turn it into action. Belief will wither if it stays only on the page. Real strength comes when you use the new story as the foundation for action to create living proof for yourself. And that is precisely what we will dive into in the next lesson. How to turn belief into concrete action. Stop waiting for confidence and let action lead belief to follow. Lesson 6. Action leads belief. There is a paradox nearly all of us have lived. We wait until we feel confident enough before we dare to act. But reality works the other way around. It is action that creates confidence, not confidence that produces action. Americans often say, "Fake it till you make it, act as if you're ready, and readiness will arrive." It may sound cliché, but it comes very close to Stoic thought. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself, "Don't waste time debating what a good man should be. Be one." The message is sharp but straightforward. Instead of waiting until you feel ready, begin the work and let it teach you how to become the person you wish to be. Think back to when you started a new job, a new relationship, or faced a fresh challenge in life. Were you ever truly ready? Most of the time, no. Instead, the collisions, the stumbles, the getting back up again trained you, making you more confident over time. Confidence is not the starting point, it is the result. Many people began careers in America with nothing. Immigrants, no degrees, no network. They only had the decision to take a step, even without knowing where the road ahead would lead. And when they stepped, they discovered they were stronger than they imagined. Stoic philosophy warns us not to waste life waiting for the perfect moment. Seneca once said, "While we wait for life, life passes us by." This is not just a warning, but a strategy for living, because every second of hesitation teaches your body the habit of delay. By contrast, however small, every action plants evidence that you can. And those pieces of evidence, over time, build into a solid belief. In practice, action also carries a psychological power that modern research confirms. When the brain sees you acting, it automatically seeks to rationalize a belief. I am capable. Americans call this the confidence loop. You act to you, survive the experience to you, gain more belief to that belief fuels the following action. This loop is the foundation of lasting confidence, not the shallow kind built on empty encouragement. Yet many people mistakenly wait for a sign, a green light from outside. They wait for the perfect job before learning skills. They wait for enough money before daring to start a business. They wait for recognition before expressing themselves. But the hard truth is that you will never feel enough if you wait. Because enough does not come from outside, it comes from doing. You never think about being healthy by reading about exercise. You only feel it when sweat hits the floor of the gym. Picture a soldier in training. He is never certain he is ready for the real battlefield. But the drills, the sweat, the failures, the repetition prepare him to walk into combat confidently. Your life is the same. In any field, work, relationships, personal growth. True confidence blossoms only when you step forward, collide, learn, and keep going. And strangely, when you begin to act, you change not only yourself, but also how others see you. People sense your energy, your persistence, your vitality in every step. They trust you not because you have all the answers, but because they see you moving forward even when nothing is specific. That courage creates a natural magnetism, a quiet confidence that those who sit and wait will never possess. So, if you are waiting for a sign, this is it. Begin. Begin with the smallest act. Send one email, make one call, take one step beyond your comfort zone. Act. And let action teach you to believe in yourself. Remember, confidence is not the condition for action. Confidence is the reward you earn after you act. And this becomes the turning point toward the next lesson. Once you act, take steps, and feel the strength of the beginning, you will see something clearly. Action is never only about you. The belief born from your action ripples outward to others, creating a chain effect. And that is what we will explore in the next lesson. The ripple power of belief and presence. Lesson 7. Belief spreads. You become living proof. There is a truth few people realize. Belief never stays locked inside one person's mind. It spreads outward, inspires, and changes the atmosphere around you. When you walk into a room carrying the trust that everything will be okay, that energy doesn't need to be spoken, everyone can feel it. In America, people often describe this as the vibe, the atmosphere radiating from your presence. And that vibe is decided by the belief you carry, not the words you speak. Epictetus once taught, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." That saying cuts straight to the core of this ripple effect. When you live as if everything can turn toward the good, you don't need to persuade others with arguments. The way you rise after falling, the way you remain calm in chaos, the way you continue to act without guarantees becomes proof stronger than any speech. Others look at you and think, if she can do it, maybe I can too. Think back to when you were strengthened by someone else without them even knowing. Maybe it was a colleague who refused to quit, though the project kept being delayed. Perhaps a friend kept studying and pushing on, despite financial struggles. They didn't lecture you about belief, but you saw how they lived, which sparked your new faith. That is the ripple effect, a silent resonance. In American society, where everyone is busy chasing their own goals, The presence of someone steady, trusting, and calm carries special weight. Intense meetings, economic pressure, and constant uncertainty, your presence, if you have a solid belief, can become an anchor for those around you. That belief is like a lantern in the night. It does not erase all the darkness, but it shines just enough for others to see the path ahead. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Be like the rock against which the waves continually crash, yet it stands firm, and around it the seething waters are laid to rest." When you live with that posture, people not only see you endure, but feel safer simply being near you. And gradually, they begin to imitate the way you respond. They learn patience. They dare to believe that hardship is training, not the end. You have become living proof of another way to live. What's striking is that this ripple does not require you to be an official leader, a celebrity, or a star. It can begin inside your family, within your circle of friends, or at your workplace. When your children see you stay calm instead of shouting when things go wrong, they learn emotional control. When colleagues see you persistently search for solutions instead of complaining, they think in solutions too. When friends visit you, dare to try, fail, and still keep walking, they gain the courage to step out of their comfort zones. Seneca once said, "We teach far more by example than by words." People may forget what you say, but they will never forget how you live. And if you choose to live with the belief that everything will be okay, you are planting invisible seeds in the minds of those around you. They may not sprout today, but tomorrow, when they face hardship, they will remember your image. They will remember that once they see you stand firm, that memory will become their evidence to whisper, "I can too." This is the true power of belief's ripple. You are building your own life and quietly building belief in others. Your belief becomes their foothold. And the more people draw strength from you, the wider that ripple spreads, creating larger change in families, communities, and even the culture of entire organizations. This is why Stoicism always emphasizes training yourself before demanding that the world change. A single individual who lives steadily and with disciplined belief can influence far more people than you realize. When you see that belief is not only for you but also a gift for those around you, you understand your responsibility more clearly. It is not a heavy responsibility, but a gentle reminder. You are becoming the proof someone else needs. And from here, we move into a deeper layer. If belief can ripple outward this way, where does the key lie? The key lies in the habits you build every day, the small but consistent practices that form the foundation of unshakable belief. And that is what we will explore in the next lesson, the power of daily discipline and repeated actions. Lesson 8, Daily Discipline, the solid foundation of belief. Belief is not a miracle that appears overnight. It is like a muscle. If you do not train it daily, it weakens. Daily discipline is the difference between those who keep their belief and those who collapse easily. Discipline here is not about grand, dramatic acts, but simple, repeated actions that quietly build strength. Americans often say, "Consistency beats intensity." Consistency is stronger than bursts of effort. Think about exercise. You cannot work out for 10 hours in one day, stop for 6 months, and expect to be healthy. Health comes from devoting 30 minutes daily, whether you are tired, busy, or unmotivated. Belief works the same way. It does not come from a flash of sudden inspiration, but from the steady repetition of actions that reinforce it. You journal each morning to remind yourself of gratitude. You walk 1 more mile instead of quitting. You keep promises to yourself, even the smallest ones. All these build up into a belief. I can rely on myself. Marcus Aurelius once reminded, turn constantly back to yourself. He did not say turn back once, but constantly. Discipline is precisely that, returning to your chosen values and repeating them until they become as natural as breathing. In modern American life, where the pace is fast and pressure pulls people away, personal discipline becomes a form of freedom, because when you keep your own rhythm, you are no longer dragged by the chaos outside. Daily discipline is also how you prove to your brain that you control the story. The mind is full of doubt. It constantly asks, "Are you sure everything will be okay?" The answer does not come from arguments, but from action. Each time you keep a small habit, you offer living proof. I can control how I live today. And gradually, doubt transforms into belief. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." That is why daily discipline is the remedy that frees you from the negative scenarios your mind creates. Instead of being haunted by what if, you return to what must I do today? Put on your shoes and walk for 10 minutes. Sit down, write one page, turn off your phone for 30 minutes to read. These small acts are like bricks stacking into a wall bit by bit. You build an inner fortress. Any ordinary American can see this value at work. The colleague who arrives early, finishes on time, and maintains steady composure that is discipline. And it is that consistency that earns them trust and greater responsibility. You may not be the smartest in the room, but you become the anchor if you are the most consistent. Discipline is also the bridge between belief and action. You may believe you will succeed, but that belief will dissolve without small steps. On the other hand, disciplined action turns belief into results, and results reinforce belief. It forms a closed circle, growing stronger with time. Epictetus once taught, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." Daily discipline is the action of teaching. It takes you from vague promises to concrete reality. It transforms the story you tell yourself into the truth you live. This is the foundation for going further. When you have discipline, you do not just live for your beliefs, you begin to inspire others. Because consistent belief and steady action create a natural magnetism, drawing people to walk alongside you, to learn from you. And that is where we will go next in the following lesson, the power of patience and perseverance over the long journey. Lesson 9, patience and perseverance, the wings that carry belief far. If daily discipline is like the bricks that build a foundation, then patience and perseverance are the wings that carry your belief across time and distance. People often grow restless, wanting to see results immediately. You exercise for 1 week and expect your body to change. You work hard for 1 month and wait for a promotion. You plant an idea and hope it blossoms after a single season. But the truth of life, especially in the modern American context, is that every lasting achievement requires time, and patience is what keeps you from quitting halfway. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Time is like a river, all events pass away, but what matters is how we swim." Patience is not sitting still, waiting for a miracle. It continues to swim and move forward, whether the water flows fast or slow. Patience is the courage to endure the process without abandoning the path. In a society full of comparisons, where social media convinces us that others succeed overnight, holding to your own steady rhythm becomes even harder. But that sets the patient apart. They understand that actual progress is a long road, not a short leap. You may remember times you quit simply because results didn't appear soon enough. Maybe it was a project left unfinished, a training routine abandoned, or a relationship you walked away from before it could mature. Those quitting moments often left behind a hollow space, a trace of regret. By contrast, the things you patiently carried through, even small ones, become solid proof that you can outlast hardship. Perseverance reminds me, I stood firm once, I can stand firm again. Seneca once said, "No one is wise without patience." He understood that maturity comes from accepting life's rhythm, not forcing it to follow our wishes. In practice, patience does not slow you down. It protects you from rashness, from costly mistakes made in haste. The impatient rush into shortcuts, but shortcuts rarely lead to lasting destinations. In America, you can see this clearly in immigrant workers. They arrive with nothing but empty hands, begin with small jobs, patiently save every dollar, persistently learn new skills, and step by step, build stable lives. They don't achieve results in a single year, but after 10 years, they stand as examples of perseverance. And that becomes proof of the belief that everything will eventually come to you if you are patient enough not to quit. Epictetus also taught, "Do not seek to have events happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do, and your life will flow smoothly." This is the lesson of patience before reality. You cannot force a sapling to bloom tomorrow, but you can patiently water and nurture it until the day it blossoms. And when you live with perseverance, you no longer panic when results don't show immediately, because you know you are on the right path. Belief cannot survive long without patience, because in every journey, there is always a gap between action and result. That gap is where many give up, but it is also where the patient gathers strength. And when they pass through that gap, they become living proof that belief combined with patience is the formula for endurance. Even more, patience allows you to inspire others. When those around you see you unmoved by delay, unfazed when results are slow to come, they learn from you this truth. Value lies not in speed, but in the ability to persist in pursuing what matters. You are not only holding belief for yourself, you are planting it in the hearts of others. And it is here that we rise to a higher level. Once you have discipline, patience, and perseverance, you begin to radiate a steadiness that others long to follow. That is the power of silent leadership, becoming living proof of belief. And that is precisely what we will step into in the next lesson. Lesson 10. Become living proof of belief. Through the past 9 lessons, we have spoken much about belief, discipline, patience, perseverance, and how to face adversity. But all of these mean nothing if they remain only in your thoughts. Belief only becomes true strength when expressed in action, when you become the living proof of the philosophy you follow. Others may hear what you say, but will believe what you see and how you live. Marcus Aurelius once reminded, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." Those words echo across centuries because they reveal a truth. People are not persuaded by theory, but by the living image of someone practicing it. If you believe in perseverance, let others see you rise again after failure. If you say you believe in silence, let them see you remain composed in conflict. Living examples are more necessary in modern American life, where pressure from work, money, relationships, and the endless social media comparisons surround us. You can easily find advice everywhere: patience, strength, and positivity. But how many truly dare to live by the words they preach? This difference is what creates attraction. People can scroll past hundreds of motivational quotes online, but they stop when encountering someone who embodies steadiness. Epictetus once taught, "Don't expect others to admire your theories. Live so that they must admire your life." This is the essence of becoming living proof. You do not need to persuade anyone that belief brings strength. You only need to show that strength in your calmness in action, how you solve problems, and the patience you hold through trials. In that moment, you become the living evidence of the very philosophy you follow. This not only transforms you but also creates ripple effects. A colleague may see how you remain calm under pressure and think, if he can do it, maybe I can try. A friend may witness your persistence in a long project and find inspiration not to give up on their dream. Even your children, who learn more from actions than words, will grow up believing that patience, discipline, and perseverance are the way to build a solid life. In a society that chases quick results, becoming living proof of belief requires you to go against the current. It may cause you to be misunderstood, labeled too slow, too rigid, or too idealistic. But over time, you will still stand when others falter. And at that moment, you need no explanation or defense. Your life will speak for itself. Seneca once reminded, "Our life must be our example, not our speech." You may read hundreds of books, listen to thousands of motivational talks, but if you never let your actions become the proof, it remains only knowledge. When you live true to your belief, you become that knowledge in flesh and blood. And here lies the connection. Belief is not only for you, but also to shine for others. When you are living proof, you accidentally become the example someone else needs to rise. You may not know who is watching you, but one day they may say, "I saw how you endured that difficult time, and it gave me the courage not to give up." From here, the journey does not end. When you become living proof, you also carry a responsibility to keep training, to keep living true to your belief, to keep spreading the discipline and disciplined optimism that Stoicism teaches. This is not a burden, it is an opportunity. An opportunity for your life to hold value not only for yourself, but also for those around you. And so, the story closes but also opens. Because becoming living proof of belief is not a destination, but a lifelong journey. It will never be perfect, but it will be real. And that reality carries the most incredible power to move others. Looking back on the journey, we see a single thread running through it all. Everything begins with belief, and belief only becomes alive when expressed through action. We have walked through many layers of thought, from choosing a different lens to view life, practicing disciplined optimism, building the habit of stepping forward in the fog of uncertainty, all the way to becoming living proof of the philosophy you follow. From the perspective of someone who has studied Stoicism deeply and applied it to modern American life, I see that the most crucial part is not theory, but how we bring it into the street, the workplace, our families, and the ordinary moments of daily living. Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, and Seneca all faced trials far harsher than most of us will ever know: war, plague, loss, the chaos of politics. Yet they repeated one truth: you cannot control the world, but you can always control yourself, what you believe, how you act, and how you write the story of your life. The greatest lesson for you is this: don't wait for belief to appear before you begin. Begin first, and belief will follow. When you take one small step into uncertainty, you send a message to your mind that you can take the next. When you hold the flame of patience while others quit waiting, you are forging a strength most will never know. And when you become living proof of belief, not loud, not showy, you do more than transform your life. You create a silent ripple of influence for those who are watching. From an expert's view, I want you to remember this: Stoicism was never meant to be read for beauty, but to be lived. Every day, you are given small chances to practice. how you respond to criticism, remain calm in the face of problems, and treat failure as a stepping stone instead of a sentence. Those small choices, repeated, are the way you build a solid life. So the final lesson I leave with you is this: live as if everything is constantly finding its way toward you. Not because life is easy, but because you have trained yourself to be the kind of person who can stand firm, learn, and keep moving forward in any circumstance. When you carry this belief into daily life, you will see it needs no announcement. Your very presence becomes a source of strength. Everything we have walked through is not some distant philosophy, but a set of tools for living. Belief, action, patience, and becoming proof are the 4 pillars that help you stand firm against life's storms. And starting today, you can begin with something tiny, changing the story you tell yourself. Remember, the world does not need you to pretend to be strong. It requires you to train yourself to be truly strong. Don't wait for perfection before you step forward, because perfection never comes. Don't wait for proof before you believe. Proof only arrives after you act. When you live as if everything will turn in your favor, you give yourself the chance to move forward. And hold this truth tightly: strength is not in predicting the future, but in how you walk in the present. Suppose today's message touched something inside you. In that case, I invite you to subscribe to Sovereign Stoic to continue this journey together, training the inner citadel, finding calm in chaos, and building a life of steadiness, freedom, and strength. Please share this video with someone you know who may need it, because sometimes a single story, heard at the right moment, can change an entire life. And finally, remember this: you don't need to become someone else. You only need to become the most steadfast version of yourself. And that begins right here, right now.